Imagine for a moment that you couldn't fail. Truly think about that. No matter what you set your hand to, it would work. Every plan, every dream, every quiet longing of your heart would unfold exactly as you hoped. How would you move through the world? How would you stand? How would you speak? And more importantly, what would you dare to attempt? You see, most people never stop to ask themselves these questions. They live life in careful steps, like a man walking across thin ice, afraid that any moment might send them crashing into the cold. But I want you to pause right now and consider this. What if that ice were as solid as granite? What if the fear of falling was nothing more than a phantom in your mind? If you're listening to this message and find yourself drawn to this idea, take a moment to like and subscribe, not for me, but as a declaration to yourself that you're serious about your growth. It's a small act of intention that says, I'm here to invest in the most important asset I have, myself. Because the truth is, failure is rarely the obstacle people think it is. It's not failure itself that holds men back. It's the anticipation of failure, the fear of it, the way it stops you before you even begin. And so the majority conform. They blend into the crowd. They take their cues from those around them who are just as afraid. They keep their dreams quiet and their ambitions small. Why? Because they are afraid of looking foolish, afraid of wasting time, afraid of the judgment of neighbors and peers, afraid of being wrong, afraid of starting something they cannot finish, afraid that they might pour their heart and soul into something only to watch it crumble to dust. And so they trade in their boldness for safety. They substitute a life of adventure for one of quiet, nervous routine. But let me ask you, when did you last see a statue built for the man who was safe? When did history remember those who sat in the back row of life, hands folded neatly in their laps, offering nothing of themselves? No, my friend, the world moves forward on the backs of those willing to risk, those willing to dare, those who in the secret chambers of their mind say to themselves, I will not be ruled by fear. And here's something even more remarkable. Fear itself is a thought. That's all it is. It is not the lion in the road, but the shadow of the lion in your mind. Fear is a whisper that says, what if you fail? And in that moment you have a choice. You can listen, or you can challenge it. What if you flip that question? Instead of asking, what if I fail, ask, what if I succeed? What if this works? What if this becomes the very thing that transforms not just my own life, but the lives of everyone I love? Because you see, that is the potential of a single decision. One decision to act, one decision to speak, one decision to believe in yourself enough to try. You know, I've spent years studying successful people, truly successful people, not merely wealthy, but those with purpose in their hearts and clarity in their minds. And the difference between them and everyone else is rarely talent or intelligence or even luck. It is simply this: they are willing to move. They are willing to act in spite of uncertainty. They are willing to put their ideas on the line and say, let's see if this works. They understand that failure is not a verdict, but a teacher. It is not a wall, but a signal to adjust the plan, refine the vision, and keep moving. The most successful people have often failed more than others have ever dared to try, because they know something that many never learn. Action cures fear. Motion is the antidote to doubt. When you are in motion, fear has less room to grow. So let me ask you right now, what are you putting off? What idea have you held in your mind for years, maybe decades, saying to yourself, someday when I'm ready, someday when the timing is perfect? Let me tell you the truth. There is no perfect time. There is only now. The clock is always ticking. Someday is a lie we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. I want you to think about this carefully. Imagine your life 5 years from now if you never act. Imagine looking back with regret, wondering what might have been. Now imagine that same life if you decide to try. Even if you fail, you'll have learned, grown, changed. But what if you don't fail? What if it works? Because you see, most people spend their lives trying to avoid losing when they should be trying to win. They seek to prevent pain instead of seeking to create joy. They build walls instead of bridges. They hedge their bets. They live in half measures. But those who achieve, those who build lives of meaning and legacy, they choose another way. They see risk as necessary. They see discomfort as the price of growth. They see failure as the tuition you pay to master your craft. If you want to change your life, you must first change your relationship with failure. Stop seeing it as something to fear and begin seeing it as something to embrace. Because the truth is, you will fail at times. That is inevitable. The question is not, will you fail? The question is, will you keep going? Will you learn? Will you dare again? If you could move through this world with the knowledge that you cannot ultimately fail, that every setback is a lesson, every obstacle an opportunity, how would you live? How would you lead? How would you serve? I want you to decide today to act as though you cannot fail, because in truth, the only real failure is in refusing to try. You see, you were not born to live small. You were not born to simply pay bills and die. You were born to expand, to create, to contribute, and the world is waiting for you to do just that. There is greatness in you. There is potential in you that you have not even begun to tap. There are people who need the gifts only you can offer. But none of that will happen if you allow fear to be your master. None of that will happen if you keep your dreams locked away in the vault of your imagination, safe from failure. Yes, but also safe from life. So I want you to take a moment now and write it down. If I could not fail, I would, and fill in that blank. Be honest, be bold, be unreasonable, because that sentence contains the seed of your future. It contains the blueprint for the life you were meant to live. And once you see it on paper, you can begin to move toward it. One step, then another. And before you know it, you will look back and realize that the greatest tragedy would have been never trying at all. Because you see, you do not need permission. You do not need to wait. You need only decide. Most people believe that the world must first change before they can change. They think they need better circumstances, more resources, a new environment, or the approval of others before they dare to act. But this is a misunderstanding that keeps countless men and women stuck their entire lives. The truth is simple, and yet so few truly grasp it. You must change first. You must become the kind of person who can handle the life you want. Consider for a moment a farmer. He does not stand before an empty field demanding crops to appear before he sows the seed. He knows the order of things. First the planting, then the harvest. Yet how many of us demand the harvest before we've done any planting in our own lives? We want success without effort, wealth without service, respect without integrity, growth without discomfort. This is not how life works, and deep down we all know it. That is why there is unease in those quiet moments when we are alone with our thoughts. We sense the truth, that the responsibility lies with us. The world will not hand you your dreams on a silver platter. It will test you, it will ask you to prove that you are worthy of the thing you want. It will demand that you grow. But here is the wonderful part. You can grow. You can become more. That is the promise hidden within every human heart. The seed of greatness lies dormant in all of us, waiting for the deliberate act of planting. What does it mean to invest in yourself? It means to deliberately cultivate your mind, your habits, your character, to say, I will not wait for life to be easy. I will become strong enough that it no longer matters whether it is easy or not. Because let me tell you, the world respects strength. It respects those who have disciplined themselves to think clearly, to act with courage, to move with purpose. Most people drift. They wake up and respond to the day as it happens to them. They react to circumstances, allowing the world to dictate their mood, their choices, their future. They have handed over their power without even realizing it. But you have the chance to live differently. You can choose to become proactive, to take responsibility for your thoughts, to govern your emotions, to command your actions. This is not merely motivational language. This is a law of life as immutable as gravity. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you think weak thoughts, you will act in weak ways. If you think noble thoughts, you will act with nobility. And let us be clear about this. Your thoughts are the only thing you truly control in this world. Everything else can be taken from you. Your wealth, your reputation, even your health. But your ability to choose your thoughts remains yours alone. It is the last human freedom. That is why it is the foundation of all lasting success. If you would change your life, you must first change your mind. Let me ask you, what are you feeding your mind? Do you fill it with complaints, fears, the endless noise of those who have never built anything of value? Or do you feed it with ideas that lift you higher? Do you surround yourself with people who encourage your growth, or those who make excuses for their own stagnation? You must guard your mind as you would guard a fortress. because what enters it will shape you slowly but surely. If you spend your days focused on limitations, you will find them everywhere. If you focus on possibilities, you will begin to see them even in places you once thought barren. The mind is like fertile soil. It does not care what you plant. It will return what you sow, good or bad, in equal measure. Plant worry, reap anxiety. Plant doubt, reap inaction. Plant discipline, reap freedom. Plant courage, reap opportunity. You see, this is why the best investment you will ever make is in yourself. Not because it guarantees you an easy life. It does not, but because it makes you equal to the challenges of life. Most people think, I hope things get easier. But the wise man says, I will get stronger. He understands that it is not the removal of obstacles that makes life better, but the cultivation of the strength to overcome them. So how do you do this? You begin by setting aside time every day to think, not to worry, not to plan your schedule, but to think. Ask yourself, what kind of person must I become to achieve the life I want? What habits must I build? What beliefs must I discard? What knowledge must I seek? Who must I serve? These questions are not idle musings. They are the work of a master craftsman shaping his own destiny. Because you are crafting something yourself. And let me tell you, there is no greater work of art than the life deliberately lived. Do not let fear stop you from asking these questions. Do not let comfort lull you into inaction. Because comfort is the enemy of growth. It is a silent thief that robs you of your potential, one unremarkable day at a time. The man who is willing to be uncomfortable, to face his fears, to do the hard thing, he is the man who rises. He is the man others look to when times get tough. He is the man who can build, can lead, can give, because he has first mastered himself. That is what I am asking you to consider today. Not what you want from life, but what life wants from you. It wants you to grow. It wants you to wake up. It wants you to realize that you are not here to simply pass the time, but to make something of it. So decide today that you will become the kind of person who cannot fail, not because failure is impossible, but because you will never let it stop you. You will learn, you will adjust, you will try again. And in doing so, you will discover that the limits you believed in were illusions. You will see that the real obstacle was never the world outside you. It was the belief that you were powerless to change. But you are not powerless. You are powerful beyond measure if you will only choose to use that power. Decide now. When you look at the course of a human life, it is astonishing how little most people demand of themselves. They wake, they work, they eat, they sleep, and in between they entertain themselves to avoid facing the truth that they are capable of so much more. They do just enough to avoid pain, just enough to get by, just enough to say they are trying, but they never truly commit. They never choose to master the one thing that determines everything else, their own mind. Think about this carefully. Your mind is the control center of your life. Every decision you make, every relationship you cultivate or destroy, every opportunity you seize or squander begins there. Yet how many people spend any real time developing it? They will polish their car, but leave their thoughts in disarray. They will invest in clothes to appear successful, but neglect the disciplines that actually create success. This is the silent tragedy of our time, that so many live lives of quiet resignation, never realizing they hold the keys to their own prison. You see, the reason so few people change is not because change is impossible. It is because change is uncomfortable. Growth requires that we leave behind old ideas, old habits, old excuses, and that is not easy. It demands honesty. It demands humility. It demands the courage to admit that we are not yet who we could be. Most would rather avoid this pain. They would rather point to circumstances, to luck, to other people. They will blame anything so they do not have to blame themselves. But here is the truth. So long as you place the responsibility for your life outside yourself, you will remain powerless to change it. Responsibility is not a burden. It is freedom. Because when you accept responsibility for where you are, you also accept the power to change where you are going. That is the investment I am talking about. Not money, not connections, but the daily, disciplined work of shaping yourself into someone capable of achieving what you want. Now you might say, that sounds hard. Of course it's hard. That is why so few do it. That is why there is so little competition at the top. Understand this. Life will always give you a choice. You can pay the price of discipline now, or you can pay the price of regret later. But pay you will. Regret is the debt you owe for the things you did not do, the chances you did not take, the potential you did not fulfill. And it is a debt that compounds over time until it becomes unbearable. I have met many men in the latter stages of life who would give everything they own for another chance, not for youth, but for the knowledge they have now, for the chance to go back and invest in themselves when it still mattered. Because they see clearly at last that everything else is secondary, that the true work of life is on the self. You see, you cannot outperform your own self-image. You cannot earn more, lead more, love more, or create more than you believe yourself capable of. That is why the work must begin in the mind. If you see yourself as small, you will act small. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will settle for less than you want. If you believe the world is unfair and stacked against you, you will never even try. But change those beliefs, and you change everything. If you can see yourself as capable, you will act with confidence. If you can see yourself as deserving, you will pursue what you want with vigor. If you can see the world as abundant, you will find opportunities others miss entirely. This is not mere positive thinking. This is the bedrock principle of all achievement. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Your thoughts are the architects of your destiny. And yet, how little time people spend on them. They let any stray fear, doubt, or distraction take root, growing unchecked like weeds in a garden. If a farmer treated his field the way most people treat their minds, he would starve. He knows he must plant deliberately, remove weeds ruthlessly, and water consistently. Why should it be any different for you? If you want a harvest of success, you must plant the seeds of success. And what are those seeds? They are the books you read, the conversations you choose, the questions you ask, the beliefs you challenge, the habits you enforce. If you do not choose these things deliberately, you are choosing by default, and default leads to mediocrity. You cannot leave your mind unguarded and expect greatness to emerge by accident. Greatness is never an accident. It is the result of small, intentional decisions made consistently over time. So let me ask you, what have you done today to invest in yourself? Did you study? Did you plan? Did you reflect? Did you do anything to make yourself even slightly better than you were yesterday? Or did you simply go through the motions, as you did the day before and the day before that? If you want to change your life, you must first change your days. Your life is nothing but the accumulation of your days. Improve one day, and you begin to improve your life. This is the great truth that most ignore because it is not glamorous. It does not promise quick results or instant success. But it is sure, it is steady, and it is available to anyone willing to do the work. You see, there is no magic formula, no shortcut, no secret club. There is only the disciplined mind, the committed spirit, and the willingness to act. And the beautiful part is, you do not need permission from anyone to begin. You do not need someone to give you an opportunity. You can create one. You can choose right now to say, I will no longer be a passenger in my own life. I will take the wheel. I will decide where I am going. I will become the kind of person who cannot fail, not because failure is impossible, but because I will never stop moving forward. That is the choice before you today. Most people wander through life hoping something will change for them. They hope to stumble upon opportunity, to be chosen for greatness, to have someone recognize their hidden potential and lift them from obscurity. But hope by itself is not a strategy. Hope without action is a quiet surrender to chance. I want you to see this clearly. The men and women who achieve, who rise above circumstance, who create meaningful lives, they do not leave their future to chance. They take responsibility for it. They claim ownership over their days. They understand that tomorrow is shaped by what they choose to do today. There is a law as certain as gravity. We reap what we sow. You cannot plant laziness and harvest success. You cannot plant indifference and reap excellence. You cannot plant doubt and harvest confidence. Yet many try to. They want the rewards without the effort. They want to be respected without being respectable. They want wealth without service. They want mastery without the years of deliberate practice it demands. But the world does not work that way, and deep down, they know it. That is why they are restless. That is why there is a quiet desperation in so many lives. Because the human spirit was not made for passivity. It was made for growth. It was made to strive, to seek, to create. And so the question becomes, what are you planting? What are you planting? When you wake each day, do you ask yourself, what am I building today? What am I creating? What am I adding to the world? Or do you simply react? Do you let the world set your agenda, fill your mind, steal your hours? The greatest investment you can ever make is to choose what you will think about, what you will do, who you will become. Because the truth is this, you are always becoming something. Even if you choose nothing, you are still becoming. You are becoming complacent. You are becoming weaker. You are becoming less than you could be. There is no pause button on life. Time moves forward. And you either move with it intentionally, or you are moved by it passively. So ask yourself honestly, where are you drifting? Where have you handed over your power to circumstances, to other people, to fear? This is the moment to take it back. Because here is something remarkable. No one can do this work for you, but no one can stop you from doing it, either. You do not need approval, you do not need permission. You simply need to choose to think deeply, to plan carefully, to act courageously. Most people think they lack time. They do not lack time. They lack direction. They wake and fill their days with trivialities. They scroll, they gossip, they complain. But the man who has chosen a goal does not have time for these things. He is too busy moving toward it. And you see, the disciplined man lives in another world entirely. He understands the power of focus. He understands that every yes to a distraction is a no to his purpose. So he guards his attention, he chooses his company wisely. He structures his days so they serve his highest vision. This is not about being rigid. It is about being intentional. Because here is the reality. Life will fill your time for you if you do not fill it yourself. If you do not choose your priorities, someone else will. And you may not like what they choose for you. I want you to imagine right now that you are capable of living exactly the life you want, that there are no limits to what you could learn, what you could do, what you could become. Because in truth, there are no fixed limits except the ones you accept. Yes, you will face obstacles. Yes, you will experience setbacks. But these are not evidence of your limitations. They are evidence of your opportunity to grow. Each challenge is a lesson in disguise. Each failure is a chance to improve. But only if you choose to see it that way. Most people see a wall and turn around. The achiever asks, how can I climb it? How can I go around it? How can I break through it? This is the mindset that changes lives. This is the mindset that makes the difference between those who live lives of quiet frustration and those who live lives of purpose and abundance. Let me be clear. You will never eliminate difficulty from life. That is not the goal. The goal is to become the kind of person who is equal to the difficulty, to become resilient, adaptable, unshakable. That is what true self-investment creates. It creates in you the capacity to handle life as it is, not as you wish it would be. Because life will not always cooperate. It will test you. It will surprise you. It will challenge every plan you make. But if you have invested in yourself, if you have built discipline, knowledge, courage, then you will not be at the mercy of circumstances. You will respond with clarity. You will adapt with grace. You will persist with determination. And the world will respect you for it. Because while most people crumble under pressure, you will remain steady. While most retreat in fear, you will move forward in faith. While most complain about what they cannot control, you will focus on what you can. This is the quiet power of the man who has chosen to invest in himself. He becomes an example. He becomes a leader. Not by title, but by the force of his character. People will notice. They will ask, how does he stay so calm? How does he accomplish so much? And you will know the answer. You will know that the real work was done in private, in the disciplined thoughts, the consistent actions, the quiet decisions no one saw. This is what I am asking you to choose today. To become the kind of person who cannot fail, not because you never fall, but because you always rise. Most people underestimate the compounding power of small, deliberate actions. They look for grand gestures and dramatic transformations, convinced that success must come all at once or not at all. They imagine the hero who arrives on the scene fully formed, brilliant, unbreakable, unstoppable. And because they cannot see themselves as that hero today, they never begin the journey to become him. But life does not reward the dramatic gesture nearly as much as it rewards the consistent one. Let me be clear about this. Greatness is not the result of one decision. It is the result of thousands of decisions made day after day, often when no one is watching. The disciplined man understands this. He does not ask, what will make me look good today? He asks, what will make me better tomorrow? He understands that every day is a brick in the structure of his future, and so he lays each brick with care. He chooses what he reads, knowing it will shape his thinking. He chooses who he listens to, knowing it will shape his beliefs. Now, he chooses how he spends his time, knowing it will shape his habits. This is the quiet, steady work of investing in oneself. It does not draw applause. It does not trend on social media, but it is the only work that matters in the end. Because when the crisis comes, and it always does, when the pressure is on, when the easy answers fail, the man who has done this work will not be shaken. He will respond with clarity, because he has trained his mind to seek solutions rather than excuses. He will remain calm, because he has practiced controlling his emotions. He will act decisively, because he has learned to trust his judgment. And while others watch in confusion, wondering how he does it, he will know. He will know that this is the reward of years of quiet, consistent investment in himself. You see, most people are addicted to the short term. They want comfort now, pleasure now, recognition now. But all of these come at the cost of the long term. They sacrifice the future for the present. But the wise man does the opposite. He sacrifices the present for the future. He knows that temporary discomfort is the price of lasting success. He is willing to delay gratification, because he understands that what he builds today will serve him for years to come. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is the lived reality of every person who has built anything of value. The athlete who trains when no one is watching. The artist who practices their craft in obscurity. The entrepreneur who plans and studies long before they launch. The leader who reads, reflects, and refines their vision quietly. These people do not wait for motivation. They create it through discipline. They do not wait for opportunity. They prepare for it so they can recognize it and seize it when it comes. This is the difference between the dreamer and the doer. The dreamer hopes, the doer prepares. The dreamer imagines, the doer acts. The dreamer blames, the doer takes responsibility. If you would achieve anything meaningful, you must become the doer. You must be willing to work when it is not exciting, to persist when it is not rewarding, to believe when there is no evidence yet to justify your belief. This is what separates those who achieve from those who merely wish. It is easy to want. It is easy to talk about goals. It is easy to plan. It is hard to do. But that is precisely why doing is so valuable, because so few are willing to do it. And so there is little competition for those who are. Ask yourself right now, what am I willing to do that most people won't? What am I willing to endure that most people avoid? What am I willing to practice in private that will pay off in public? Because this is how you gain an advantage in life. Not by being given something, but by becoming someone worthy of trust, someone worthy of opportunity, someone capable of carrying the weight of responsibility. People often talk about luck. They say success is luck. But luck, if it exists at all, favors the prepared. It is the man who is ready who seems lucky when opportunity comes. Because he has built himself to be equal to it, he has invested in his knowledge, his character, his discipline. And when others see the opportunity but cannot act because they are unprepared, he steps forward. This is what I want for you. To be ready. To be capable. To be the kind of person who cannot fail, not because you avoid setbacks, but because you never stop moving forward. Because you never stop learning. Because you never stop growing. But understand this, the only sustainable advantage in life is who you become. Money can be lost, but positions can be taken. Reputations can be attacked. But your character, your discipline, your wisdom, these are yours alone. They cannot be stolen. They cannot be faked. They must be built. So do not waste time envying those who have more. Spend your time becoming more capable, more disciplined, more focused, more resilient. Because the day will come when the world will test you. And you will have to answer the question, did you prepare? Did you invest in yourself? Or did you waste the precious time you were given? How did you waste the precious time you were given? Do not let that day find you wanting. Decide now that you will do the work. But if you study the lives of truly successful people, you will notice a pattern so consistent it cannot be ignored. They do not leave their growth to chance. They do not simply hope to improve as they go along. They have a plan for themselves. They treat their own development as their most important project. They schedule their learning. They prioritize reflection. They choose their influences carefully. They invest in their skills deliberately. And they do this not once, not occasionally, but every day. Because they understand that growth is not an event, it is a process. It is a lifelong commitment to never becoming stagnant, never resting on what you know, never assuming you have arrived. Most people stop learning the moment they leave school. They see education as something given to them by others, rather than something they must give themselves. They graduate, they get a job, they settle in, and their learning stops. But the world keeps changing. New ideas emerge, new skills are required, new challenges arise. And those who stopped growing are left behind. They complain about the changes, they resist them. But complaining does not stop the world from changing. Resisting does not prevent the future from arriving. The only way to stay relevant, to stay useful, to stay valuable, is to keep learning. And that responsibility is yours alone. No one can make you learn. No one can force you to grow. No one can choose your thoughts for you unless you let them. This is the essence of self-investment, choosing your own evolution. Because you are not finished. You are not fixed. You are not complete. You are a work in progress, and you will remain so for as long as you live. But that progress is not automatic. It is intentional. So it is the result of decisions made daily, hourly, even moment by moment. When you choose to read instead of watching mindless entertainment. When you choose to reflect rather than react. When you choose to study rather than gossip. When you choose to plan rather than drift. These choices, small though they seem, compound over time into something extraordinary. They shape you. They strengthen you. They prepare you. Most people underestimate the power of these small choices. They think, what difference does one day make? But one day becomes two. Two become a week becomes a month becomes a year. And before long, the person who chose to invest in themselves has become someone entirely different from the one who did not. It is not magic. It is simply the law of cause and effect. As ye sow, so shall you reap. If you sow learning, you will reap wisdom. If you sow discipline, you will reap freedom. If you sow vision, you will reap clarity. If you sow service, you will reap opportunity. But if you sow nothing, you will reap nothing. And yet, how many people do exactly that? They let their days pass in idle busyness. They let their thoughts be shaped by fear and negativity. They let their habits be dictated by impulse and convenience. And then they wonder why nothing changes. But you will not be one of them. Because you know the truth now. But gjør their truth now. Because you know the cool for by this. You know that the only way to change your future is to change yourself. You know that the only way to have more is to become more. You know that the only way to lead is to first lead yourself. And so ask yourself, what am I doing today to become the person who can handle the life I want? What am I reading? What am I practicing? What am I practicing? Who am I listening to? What am I avoiding that I need to face? What am I procrastinating that I need to begin? These questions are not comfortable, but they are necessary. But they are necessary. But they are necessary bat de golbs, sfedig like mer periotritis out tinkles wrote here. Because comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort is the siren song that lulls you to sleep, that tempts you to stay small, that whispers in your ear that you can wait until tomorrow. But tomorrow is not guaranteed. And the person you will be tomorrow is shaped by the decisions you make today. If you want a better future, you must begin building it now. One page read, one idea considered, one fear faced, one habit improved, one promise kept. Do not underestimate the power of one, because one leads to another, and soon you have momentum. What is nov de fixima fultu? Momentum is a force all its own. Once you have it, things become easier. Decisions become clearer. Results become inevitable. But to get it, you must start. You must push through the inertia of inaction. You must be willing to do what is hard now so that life can become easier later. Because that is the real choice you face every day. Easy now, hard later. Or hard now, easy later. Most people choose easy now. They avoid effort. They avoid discomfort. They avoid responsibility. And they pay the price later. But you can choose differently. You can choose to invest in yourself, to face the truth about where you are, to imagine where you could be, and to begin closing that gap one deliberate action at a time. Because in the end, the best investment you will ever make is in yourself. Not because it is guaranteed to be easy, but because it is guaranteed to be worth it. Decide now. Now, most people never stop to ask themselves a simple but life-altering question. What am I capable of if I truly gave my best? Not my average effort, not my convenient effort, but my very best. They go through life half engaged, half awake. They give just enough to get by, to avoid embarrassment, to keep things moving. But they never demand from themselves the full measure of their ability. Why? Because giving your best is uncomfortable. It means you must face the possibility that even your best may not be enough at first. It means you must risk failure. It means you must reveal yourself, your hopes, your dreams, your effort to a world that may not immediately reward you. And so most people hold back. They ration their energy. They keep one foot in, one foot out. They protect themselves from disappointment by never truly trying. But there is a price for this safety. It is the dull ache of unrealized potential. It is the regret that whispers, "You could have been so much more." It is the knowledge in the quiet hours of the night that you settled, that you gave in to fear, that you betrayed the promise of who you might have become. Because make no mistake about it, you are under no obligation to become anything more than you are. Life will let you drift if you want to drift. It will let you coast. It will let you waste your years in comfort and distraction. But if you do, understand that life will also give you the results of that choice. Mediocrity, regret, frustration, disappointment. Or you can choose another way. You can choose to give your best, to commit fully, to hold nothing back, to say, if I am to fail, let it be with everything on the line. Because there is a freedom in that. There is a power in knowing that you did not play small, that you did not shrink to fit other people's expectations, that you did not let fear dictate the boundaries of your life. The man who gives his best may not always win, but he will always grow. He will discover abilities he did not know he had. He will build resilience he did not know he needed. He will gain a self-respect that cannot be bought or faked, because he will know deep down that he did everything he could. And that knowledge is priceless. It is the foundation of real confidence. Not the shallow arrogance of pretending to be better than others, but the deep certainty that you have mastered yourself, that you can trust yourself, that you will not abandon yourself when things get hard. This is the essence of true self-investment. It is not about adding credentials to your resume or skills to your toolbox merely for show. It is about forging a character that can handle whatever life brings, because life will test you. It will bring pain, loss, betrayal, disappointment. You cannot avoid these things, but you can prepare for them. You can become the kind of person who is not destroyed by hardship, but refined by it. You can become the kind of person who does not run from adversity, but rises to meet it. The kind of person others look to when times get tough, because they can see that you are unshaken. Not because you do not feel fear or doubt, but because you do not let them rule you. Because you have practiced discipline in small things, you can exercise it in big things. Because you have trained your mind to focus, you can see solutions where others see only problems. Because you have demanded your best when no one was watching, you can deliver it when everyone is. And here is the beautiful paradox. When you give your best consistently, you get better. Your best today will not be your best a year from now. Because you will have grown, you will have learned, you will have expanded the very limits of what you thought was possible for you. This is the real reward of effort. And then, not just the external success it creates, but the internal transformation it produces. The world will see your achievements, but you will know the price you paid. The hours of practice, the moments of doubt faced down, the sacrifices made without fanfare. And you will know that you are capable of more, that you can set bigger goals, that you can serve at a higher level. Now, that you can live with greater purpose. This is why the best investment you will ever make is in yourself. Because everything you want in life flows from who you become. If you want better relationships, become more patient, more compassionate, more honest. If you want greater wealth, become more valuable, more knowledgeable, more disciplined. If you want more influence, become more trustworthy, more inspiring, more committed. The world responds to what you are, not what you say you want. So the real question is not, what do I want? It is, who must I become to deserve it? And when you answer that question honestly, you will see the path before you. It will not be easy. It will not be quick. But it will be clear. And you will know that every step you take along that path is an investment in the only thing that can never be taken from you, the person you become. Decide now. Most people spend their lives waiting for the right time, waiting for permission, waiting for conditions to improve. They convince themselves that someday when things are easier, they will begin. But someday is not a day on any calendar. It is an illusion, a comfortable lie we tell ourselves to justify inaction. The man who achieves understands this. He knows that the perfect time will never come, that circumstances will never fully cooperate, that fear will never completely vanish. And so he does not wait. He begins, he acts, he moves forward even when he does not feel ready. Because he knows that readiness is not something you wait for, it is something you create. By taking action, by facing uncertainty, by doing the thing you fear until it holds no power over you. This is the secret that separates those who achieve from those who merely wish. The achiever understands that he will never have total control over the world. But he can have control over himself. He can choose his thoughts. He can master his emotions. He can command his actions. And in doing so, he can shape his destiny. Because while life will always throw challenges his way, no one can force him to quit. No one can make him give up. No one can decide for him what he will think, what he will believe, what he will do. That is his domain alone, and he guards it carefully. This is the essence of self-investment. Not simply learning new skills or accumulating knowledge for its own sake, but forging a mind and spirit capable of meeting life on its own terms. Calm in crisis. What do you do? Clear in confusion. Decisive in uncertainty. Disciplined in temptation. Resilient in hardship. Because such a person is valuable, not just to himself, but to everyone around him. People will look to him for guidance. They will trust him with responsibility. They will seek his counsel, not because he demands it, but because he has earned it, through who he has become. And here is something you must understand. The world pays for value. If you want more from life, you must become more valuable, not in a superficial way, But out of the Thames and Mufteri it might start. Wed now on the patient sing which toit main. That first stove up of unreaching form respondent of audition more repetitus. Not by pretending to be something you're not, but by actually becoming better, more knowledgeable, more skilled, more dependable, more disciplined, but more wise. This is not a task for the weak-willed or the impatient. It is a lifelong commitment, because there is no finish line to self-mastery. No moment when you can say, I have arrived. There is only the next challenge. That piefestellen departementagischen sportimetfleischen toward bustekes te twain. That for ran tournament There is only the next challenge dort toer sexeldren of a nation sparkles was in a charlotte toer sekel. What is to the pendentical these years to materapray summon Michal? The next lesson, the next opportunity to grow. Most people avoid this truth. They want guarantees. They want certainty. They want a promise of success without the risk of failure. But life does not work that way. It offers no guarantees except this. If you refuse to grow, you will wither. If you refuse to learn, you will be left behind. If you refuse to act, you will regret. But if you choose to invest in yourself, truly, deeply, consistently, you will become the kind of person who can handle whatever life brings. You will not fear change, because you will know you can adapt. You will not fear failure, because you will know you can recover. You will not fear uncertainty, because you will know you can think clearly and act decisively even when the path is not clear. That is real freedom. What? Not the absence of difficulty, but the confidence that you can meet it head on. Because you have prepared. Because you have trained. Because you have built yourself into someone worthy of trust, especially your own. Imagine a world where more people chose this path, where more people took responsibility for themselves, where more people said, I will not wait for someone else to save me. I will save myself. I will not wait for someone else to fix the world. I will fix what is mine to fix. I will not wait for permission to grow. I will grow because it is my duty to become all I can be. This is the quiet revolution available to every person who hears these words. And it begins with a single decision: to stop waiting, to stop making excuses, to stop settling, and to start becoming the kind of person who acts, who learns, who serves, who leads, who loves, who leaves nothing on the table, who can look back at the end of life with no regret, because he knows he did not waste the gift of time. He did not waste the gift of potential. He did not waste the opportunity to become the person he was meant to be. That is the ultimate investment. That is the best investment you will ever make. And it is available to you right now. So decide. Begin. Do the work. Your future self is waiting for you, and he is hoping you will be brave enough to meet him. If these words have spoken to you today, take a moment to share this message, to leave a comment, to subscribe for more. Not because I need it, but because you do. Because each small act of commitment is another way of saying to yourself, I am ready to change. Decide now.